I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu. Mr. Sismar.
Here.
Mr. Hung.
Here.
Mrs. Lax.
Here.
Mrs. Reese.
Here.
Mr. Sealer.
Here.
Mr. Simmons. Mr. Winston.
Here.
President Becker.
Here. We have a quorum. Please rise to salute the flag. Call me anything. It's okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We used to have a superintendent who would always call me Becky. It was kind of a mash of Vicki Becker. It's fine.
It wasn't me.
No, used to. Used to being the key word. Okay. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the East Brunswick Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published at the Board of Education offices. Also, written notice was provided to the Sentinel, the Newark Star Ledger, the Home News and Tribune, and the Municipal Clerk of East Brunswick. All Board of Education meetings, with the exception of executive session discussions, are videotape-related broadcasts. Individuals who speak at the board's public meeting should be aware of these videotaping rules. Good evening. Welcome to the last board meeting before school starts, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
To all those parents who are moaning and groaning about going back to getting lunches ready and doing homework and all the school supplies you have to buy from someone who doesn't have to do it anymore, treasure every second. I would give anything. I'm ready to go into Target and Staples and pull the first grade supply list out of
There's
some
nothing
unsuspecting
left,
parent's
Vicki.
mind.
There's nothing, I was there last night, there's nothing left.
I want to buy backpacks. I want to pack lunches. It goes fast. Enjoy every second of it.
You don't want to pack lunches. You want to buy lunch from
Oh, that's right.
from our food service
I don't wanna
provider
bring
and
lunch.
who offers extremely diverse
That's right.
menus.
I want to
our
give my
students.
kids money
Yeah.
to buy lunch.
That's exactly what you want to preload money on their account.
Enjoy the remaining time before school starts, but please enjoy every second of your child in school. And with that, our superintendent's report for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Good evening, everyone. On Tuesday, August 20th, we welcomed over 70 new staff members to the East Brunswick Schools community. New staff participated in an engaging, collaborative, and informative 3-day orientation that provided them with critical information with a focus on curriculum, instruction, professionalism, and district policy. They also had multiple opportunities to meet and interact with district and school administrators as well as their new colleagues. Thank you to all the administrators and mentors who helped to make orientation so successful. While not a formal East Brunswick Board of Education committee, EPP Star is a board-sanctioned ad hoc committee that met earlier this evening. East Brunswick Schools for Tolerance, Acceptance, or for Total Acceptance and Respect, was formed to promote cultural and gender acceptance as well as respect. The General Committee serves as a steering committee overseeing three distinct subcommittees, one representing students, one representing parents, and one representing a rapid response and communication focus. Tuesday, September 3rd is the first day back for teachers. Thursday, September 5th is the first day of school for all students. Orientations were held this week for our preschool, kindergarten, 6th, 8th, and 10th graders, as well as brand new students. All back-to-school nights are posted on the district calendar on our website. Registration continues to be busy, even tonight, as we welcome new students and families to our growing school community. Fall sports are up and running. Please check eastbrunswickathletics.com for team schedules. Go Bears. This September, we are launching our OnetoOne Initiative, which means we're giving laptop computers to all East Brunswick high school students until they graduate or withdraw from the high school. This important endeavor coincides with an equally exciting launch of Canvas, our new student online learning management system. Canvas, enhanced with new student technology, presents countless new opportunities for student learning and preparedness for 21st century experiences after graduation. And we have a short video to show the board. East Brunswick Public Schools is proud to announce exciting advancements in technology for the 2019-2020 school year. These advancements were developed as part of our long-term strategic plan with the goal of increasing access to technology to enhance teaching and learning. In September, all high school students will be given a Lenovo 300E to use both at school and outside of school. And Churchill students will have daily access to a Chromebook for use during the school day. Every student in the high school and Churchill will have access to Canvas online learning classrooms. Lenovo 300E computers have full laptop capabilities and run the Windows operating system. They will assist students to prepare for college and become self-directed future professionals who have experience collaborating and innovating with others. Some of the primary benefits for teaching and learning include easy access to Canvas, Google Drive, OneDrive, and other programs already in use in the district. Students and teachers can store data on the computer to access on or offline. Expanded capabilities for teaching programs and software that go beyond internet-based apps. The computer folds back 360 degrees and doubles as a touchscreen tablet with a stylus for note-taking or drawing. Each student will be assigned a specific laptop for his or her individual use, and it is solely the student's responsibility to care for the device. Each laptop has a unique identification number, and at no time should the numbers or labels be modified or removed. Laptops should not be lent to another person. Never leave a laptop unattended. When not in your possession, the laptop should be in a secure, locked environment. Never expose your laptop to long-term temperature extremes or direct sunlight. Car is not a good place to store any technology. Neither is on top of the roof or the trunk. Technology does not respond well to liquids. If you need to clean your laptop, use a soft, dry cloth. These district-owned laptops must remain free of stickers and other decorative items. Though the district will not be providing a laptop case, students are strongly encouraged to purchase their own case, which may be personalized. Students are expected to fully charge the device each evening and bring it to school each day. A fully charged device is anticipated to have enough battery life to use throughout the entire school day. Families are strongly encouraged to purchase annual insurance for a nominal fee. If a student does not have insurance for the device, they will be responsible for the full cost of any needed repairs. For information about care, insurance, and accessory items, look to the Student Technology Handbook link under the Students or Parents on the high school webpage. Students can visit the Genius Bar at the High School Media Center for support if they have any difficulty with their device. The most important factor in teaching and learning will always be the relationships developed between students and teachers in the classroom. These devices will enhance and complement the exceptional instruction already taking place at the high school, as well as support college and career readiness. We look forward to the innovations in teaching and learning that will be possible with increased access to technology in the 2019-2020 school year.
Very nice.
Thanks to John McMiniman, who put that together, and to Dr. Boley and Nicole Tibbetts, who together created the script that I just got to read. So
Who made the laptop swim through the water?
that was John.
That was great.
That's my favorite emoji, and the laptop underwater, yes.
It's a great initiative. Terrific initiative.
So the laptops are here. The first laptops were put in the hands of senior students as the first rollout already. And so we plan for the laptops to be delivered to students within the first couple of days of the new school year.
And again, the staff will have the same,
They already have them.
okay. And the staff is, there's been professional development for Canvas?
There has. There was actually, after we ended the school year, there was a very large turnout of staff. In fact, I think I showed a picture of all the staff at one of the former board meetings, and you may have missed the enormity of it, but the media center at the high school, the upper level of the media center, was completely filled with staff who were engaged in Canvas PD. Stibbits, would you want to speak to that as far as the Canvas part of it?
Sure, so we had about, we had about 75 teachers come for a 2 full-day staff development days with the Canvas trainers. So they had about 12 hours of professional development. And they started creating what we call the blueprint courses. So they created the initial content that would get pushed out to all of the other teachers. And on September 4th, all of those 75 teachers will be training their colleagues in how to use the program successfully. And then we will have another day in November. Our full-day staff development day in November will also be focused on implementation of Canvas.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to thank these guys because Dr. Boley, her entire team, Nick Latronica, his entire team, Trudy Atkins, just the entire administrative team. This was a huge lift. The high school had a vision for this as well and support. This is a really big deal, and we expect it to go really well, and we think we have all the supports in place. And we're excited about this year. This is going to be something very new and different for our East Brunswick students.
Sounds good.
Can I add one more thing? I just want to add that we're planning a parent university for our parents who need support in figuring out how to help their child with the computer. And also there's a parent app for Canvas. And so we'll be able to help parents get onto the app and be able to kind of monitor their students' work on that. I think the date is October 7th, is that right? That's right. So we haven't started really advertising that yet, but we do anticipate having that as a day for our parents.
How are we going to get the word out to parents about the app?
So we are still working on how we're going to get the app out to everybody. There's really some pretty clear-cut directions. It's just downloading an app. You just have to, you could download it right now.
No, I meant just in terms of, are we going to put something on the website, do
We're
a Global
hoping
Connect?
to give parents access to it at back to school night. So that's our goal. And then what happens is every student gets like a key code, and they have to share their key code with their parent. And then they punch that in, and they will be able to see all of their classes based on that. It's attached to the student, not to their individual courses. So once a parent is attached to that student, they can see every course that student is enrolled in from now until they graduate high school. So we're hoping that will happen at the high school level at back to school night. Churchill's back to school night is really early, and we're not positive we'll be ready to get the parent app out that quickly. So we're waiting on that one.
But we have decided to reinforce this with Blackboard Communications that we're putting out. So when we do that, we'll make sure that not only with the associated, either the high school or Churchill parent community, we'll copy members of the board on that too, so you'll hear the same message. So you'll get to hear my voice a lot this year.
That's another thing to look forward to.
No extra charge, by the way, for
I just
that.
did the app. I just downloaded it. It's very easy.
Show off.
It was simple. If I can do it,
Very
it's
simple, very easy.
That's my point.
There you go.
Okay. We have a presentation tonight, and we look forward to this presentation every year. It's our annual Student Services Report. And we have Danielle Blaylock and Louise Sultana. Danielle is Supervisor of Student Services and Wellness for grades K through 12. And Louise is Supervisor of Guidance for grades 6 through 12 and College and Career Readiness.
Thank you, Mrs. Becker and Dr. Valesky and the board for having us back again this year. We come back every year, and I'm glad you're excited about it. That makes me feel good. So we like to come back year after year and share our student services report, which is data and information that's collected from the year that we've just completed. It's a really good way to end the summer and get ready for the new school year, because we're looking at the data and the services that we provided to the students the year prior, and we use that in order to determine what services and programming we need to implement for the next school year. So just to clarify our roles, as Mrs. Becker said, I'm the Supervisor of Student Services, so I oversee the nurses K-12, the student assistant specialists, K-12, and also the health teachers and the curriculum for the health department. Mrs. Sultana.
And I have school counseling from 6 through 12, college and career readiness. So scheduling, which has been quite the beast the last couple days. And we start with Naviance in 6th grade and work for college and career prep and a couple different programs within the school.
So our roles overlap a lot, and the work that the student assistant specialists and the counselors do overlap a lot, which is why we present this report together. So as I'm starting into my 7th year, which I can't believe already, into this position, previously a counselor in the district, I'm excited when I look back at where we've been and how far we've grown in terms of our programming, especially in the social and emotional learning aspect. So as we know, the students in East Brunswick their needs continue to change and evolve every single year. So what's important about this report is that we look at that, identify what the changing needs are, and adapt to it. We don't want to stay stagnant. We want to make sure that we're adapting to the students and their families and what they need every year.
We try to stay as proactive as possible as opposed to reactive.
So in terms of programming, social and emotional wellness programming is one of the most important aspects of our role. We have a lot of programming that is consistent throughout K-12 in all of our buildings. We have the Superflex curriculum, which is in all of our K through 2 classrooms. We have our Alveus anti-bullying prevention programming. I'm excited to say that all of our student assistance specialists will officially be trained as trainers in the Alveus program come the end of September, which is really exciting. We have PBSIS, which is positive behavioral supports in schools. We have the Second Step curriculum, which supports teaching the students coping strategies, how to manage their stress, things like that in K-12. And we also have the Sources of Strength program, which Ms. Sultana was essential in bringing in with me about 5 years ago, which has now been expanded to not only Churchill in the high school, but also Hammersholt.
And something we did this year was we worked on the verbiage that they're using in pre-K up to 5th grade to start transitioning that over into Hammersholt, Churchill in the high school, so the students can relate as they get more mature with using, maybe not saying like, what's one of the Superflex?
So one of the Superflex characters would maybe be, I don't know. Mean Gene.
That's a good one. So like, a 8th grader is not going to say she's being a mean Gene to me, but to kind of identify that a student may be speaking to her inappropriately or giving them the verbiage that they've learned when they were younger and transitioning to all the different secondary schools. Although our seniors may say she's a mean Gene, they kind of don't go down that route anymore. So that's a big push that we did this past year.
We have our Sources of Strength group that goes down to all of the elementary schools and does an assembly program with our 4th and 5th grade. So it's starting to prep our elementary students for getting ready to come up to the secondary schools where Sources of Strength is a very active program that they could be a participant in.
And they also do the, more than just that, with the GASP club at the high school, where they go down to Hammersholt, so that we have the high school students going to Hammersholt, we have the high school students going to the elementary schools. So it's a nice kind of transition for each of the different buildings.
And statistics have proven that if you use your own students, your older students, to help build those relationships with the younger students, they're more inclined to buy in. They look up to our students, they look at those juniors and seniors in high school, at elementary school, and they make those connections. So it starts at that young age, getting them ready for Hammersholt and moving up, and it also assists with the transition. The other thing is that in every one of our schools, according to the anti-bullying law, we have our school safety teams, and those teams will also plan individualized programming for each of the schools. Things like Diversity Day, programming for Respect Week, programming for Violence Prevention Week. So there's also programming that's specific to every single one of the schools, but based on that individual school's climate and data. So now we're going to move on to what does the data show that we've collected from the past school year. So in our elementary schools, what you would notice in the report that we provided to you is that overall, there was not a huge change in a lot of the numbers that we saw in elementary school, but a couple things to be noted is that the number of groups and the participants in the groups that we provided, the numbers were up. And why would that be? Each year, as I said, we look at the students and how their needs are changing every single year. So we're not just going to run the same amount of divorce groups, the same amount of social skills groups every single year. The student assistance specialist is going to survey the teachers, survey the students, survey the parents, and determine what are the needs. And at that point, determine what groups need to run, talk with the students, talk with their parents, and figure out what are the appropriate groups to run. So this past year, we had an increase a little bit, not huge, but an increase a little bit in the amount of groups that we were able to run at elementary schools and the amount of students that participated. And we like to see that because if we can address the students in a group, then there's less time so we have to pull them out individually and miss classroom instruction. They can get the same support services through the group, get them right back into class, and they also feel more connected to some of their peers, which is another positive. We also noticed that the confirmed number of HIBs, harassment, intimidation, and bullying reports, was also down. Why would that be? Well, we've been working since 2011 to do a lot of programming within the schools, elementary schools, to teach students what is harassment, intimidation, and bullying versus what is normal conflict. Kids will be kids, they will have normal conflicts, and we have to kind of tease out and also teach them the language to understand what is the difference. So it is a positive that we see those numbers going down a little bit because we think that parents as well as students are kind of understanding a little bit more what meets the qualifications for HIB versus what might be a normal conflict. But overall in elementary school, the numbers were pretty consistent to what we've seen in the past. If we move on to secondary, we saw some interesting changes. We're both going to speak to those. One of the things that's really on my radar moving into next year in terms of goals for next year is the drug screens for the district were up. Both the drug screens as well as the positive screens. And why is that? It's a direct result of vaping. Unfortunately, this is something, I mean, you're seeing it on the news all the time, kids having respiratory infections and things like that. Unfortunately, vaping has become extremely popular, and a lot of our students are using vaping devices to vape marijuana, which is unfortunate. So that is something that's on our radar for next year, that we had it on our radar for the year prior. We did increase our program. We had 2 parent universities. The Municipal Alliance had provided us with additional programming within the health classes, but we are going to continue to make this a priority moving into next year because the popularity of it is just, unfortunately, right now so high. And we need to educate the kids, educate the parents, and make them understand that this is a concerning behavior.
Another reason why they're up too is education of the staff and the SRO officers and having the availability of adults that are in the school that are able to not only know the students where they can tell if the behavior is off, but they're also in the hallways, they're able to monitor things in a more positive way so that we can get ahead of it. Or if they feel like a student's acting off, they'll walk the student down to the counselor. Their relationships with our students has made a big difference in us being able to identify students that may be struggling or maybe self-medicating or maybe off, each day. So it's not the puppies and rainbows, right? But it's something that we're trying to acknowledge as a state. So even in our associations that we work with, it's something that a lot of the other districts are seeing as well. So we just want to make sure that it's at the forefront of our education to our kids.
So at the secondary level, in terms of groups, our participation in groups was also up. This is something we consider to be very positive at the secondary level because it's hard sometimes to get the older students to agree to come out of class, to participate in a group. One thing that we think was a very interesting incentive was that last year we hired 2 male counselors, a student assistance specialist as well as a counselor at Churchill. Both of them coming to the table with a lot of background in mental health, and the students really connected to both of them. And for the first time, we were able to run multiple men's groups. We had 3 men's groups that ran at the high school. And how
And
many at
2
Churchill?
at
2 at
Churchill.
Churchill. So that was
Usually
really,
the boys don't want to be in the groups. There's, they just feel
There's
like
hesitation.
yeah, there's hesitation in sharing. It's just something that's not cool. So this was a big deal for us because it was complete male groups, and having discussions about things that need to be opened up and to be talked about with maybe a male instead of having to speak to a female counselor or female teachers. But it's an open and non-judgmental environment where they're able to talk about things that you guys don't want to know about.
so we're actually really excited about that. That's a positive
Yes,
number.
that's a very big positive for us. We also did new student groups. So as Dr. Valesky was saying the other day, our numbers are going up. We have a lot of new registrations. Registration is still open right now. So every one of the secondary schools ran new student groups where they assign the student with a mentor. The schools that have the sources of strength, they would sit with them at lunch, make sure that the students have a place to go. Someone walks them around to each of the different classes all day and just kind of connects with them in a way that they're not kind of thrown into these huge buildings. So we ran those, and students that were from charter schools, and then we had students that came from all over the state, students from other states, and we tried to put them into groups to have them relate to each other so that their transition to East Brunswick and our curriculum and our rigor wasn't as difficult.
Another number that was increased was our DCP&P referrals. Why would that be? Again, we need to remember that all of the staff in East Brunswick Public Schools, we are mandatory reporters. So when we have a concern that's brought to our attention, whether it's physical or emotional abuse, we're mandated to report it. But what we found is that there are a good number of families that are already connected to services once they get to us. So they could be moving into town already connected to services through the state, through DCP&P. And every time there's a change or a concern, it's our obligation to really reach out to the case manager and make sure that they're aware of anything that's changing. The positive in that is that our counselors and our student assistance specialists and our nurses are very well connected to any services that students are getting outside of the school building. So it's important to us that we really partner with those counselors and those state agencies to make sure that the students are getting exactly what they need to be the most successful that they can in school. Another number that was interesting was the HIB investigations and confirmed was down, similar to elementary. And we believe that this is the same thing. Since 2011, when the law has changed, we've worked, so hard to do education to all of the students, to all of the parents, to help them understand what is HIB versus what is normal conflict. So those numbers consistently have pretty much come down over the years because students and parents are understanding what meets the criteria of HIB versus what is normal conflict that we can handle within the counseling department or between students.
So our class, we said goodbye to the class of 2019, which was sad for me because I taught them back when they were in 6th grade, so that was a hard one for me to lose. But this is a summary of the class as a total. So we had 576 kids move on to 4-year universities or 4-year colleges. We had 94 students move on to 2-year colleges. Business, technical, and other post-secondary schools, 11. Armed forces, we had 8 students go on. Employment, 26. And we had students report that they were taking a gap year. So in the past, they haven't identified that. So that's our first year that we've had students report that they are choosing to take a gap year. One is going to spend the year in Israel. Another one was going to be traveling. I want to take a gap year. One is going to be traveling through Europe. And the other 2 were just going to kind of take a minute to have employment before they chose to move on to their secondary schools. Trudy and I have been talking about alumni data and resources through Naviance. So we're going to have more data on how our students are doing 4 years out, 5 years out, see how different groups of kids are doing in school and how successful that they are. So that's something that we're excited about as well. This is also broken down to like what schools and so on, but it's a lot. So a little bit more about secondary. INRS is something that we utilize in order to make sure that all of our students are having individualized education program. So it is the step before we move into any sort of severe accommodations or modifications, and some of the work that we're going to be doing this year is working on pre-INRS, so that we're working with the students when they're referred by the parent, by the teacher, even by the student self-reporting that they need some more supports, and in that to utilize RTI, working with Dr. Boley, to make sure that we're giving our students as much as a individualized program as possible. The work is also with the instructional coaches in the building and the specialists, so they're providing the counselors with tools in order to write an appropriate action plan for the students, and then we revisit after 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, to see if the supports that we put into place are working, if they are, if they're not, and how to move forward. Another big push for Danielle and I is also to get the counselors out into the classrooms and in the building, to walk through the lunchrooms, just because maybe, Danielle, who's not really feeling great today, probably won't go down to the counseling office because she's too busy and it's just too much to get down there. But if I walk through as her counselor, she might just stop me, wave me down, and say that she needs some support. So getting the counselors out into the classrooms, getting the counselors into the lunchrooms, just to be more visual, not just with presentations for Naviance and coping skills, but also for just visiting, just going in and having a seat and seeing how the classes are going, and our robust number of electives and classes and opportunities for students that they also are keeping abreast of all of the different offers for the students. Study skills kind of comes along with INRS. So study skills we have for general education students now as well as special education students, and it's really for our students that have been INRS'd. We're not seeing a lot of success with the action plans, and those students are placed in courses with teachers and a classroom of 10 and under, where the teacher is able to work with them on maybe whether it's organization, we'll place them with a math teacher if they're struggling a little bit in math, but it certainly has been shown that at Churchill and the high school it's very successful, and it's working out really well. Increased one-to-one counseling sessions. So along with the SACs, because they do have 700 students per caseload, the counselors are doing individual sessions where they're checking in with students a little bit more often than maybe in the past. As the world is changing and there's more pressures on our students for sports, for academics, for social emotional, they never leave their devices. We got to go home in high school and nothing followed me. They walk with it. So the social pressures of school follow them right home. So that we're picking up a little bit more. And group lessons to pull students that may be all struggling in a certain area, and it's almost like it's a counseling group, but it's more of education. We're running an NCAA group at both Churchill and the high school to maybe teach students that parents maybe weren't so athletically inclined, to teach them a little bit about what they need to know as school's going on, because it's very complicated and there's a lot to know, and I will not be running either one of those groups. Don't worry. And then our monthly at-risk meetings with building administration. These are incredibly important because we're able to keep in the know with what's going on from the administrative side in the building, to know what students are kind of maybe getting in trouble, coming to school late a little bit, and what the struggles are at home or what they're telling the counseling office. And it's really an opportunity for all of us to be on the same page with some of our struggling students. So we're going to share this one.
So now we take the data that we've pulled in from the year prior, and we sit down and we talk about it and we think about it and we process it and figure out, based on this, what should be our goals for the next school year. So now moving into our 1920 school year, for me and my department, social and emotional has always been the most important, but we're going to be continuing to move in that direction and increase and continue with the programming that we're already doing. Mindfulness is something that we've already been doing for the past 2 years, but now it's going to be a goal of the student assistance specialist to not only be doing mindfulness programming with individual groups and some small classrooms, but with the buildings as a whole, K-12. The drug vaping education, as I said before, is also a huge issue that needs to be addressed, and we need to be addressing it full force. As you know, I've mentioned in the past, I sit on the Municipal Alliance for the Prevention of Drug and Alcohol Programming in East Brunswick. We meet monthly. They have provided us tremendous grant funding in the past, and they are committed. I met with them 2 weeks ago. They are committed to continue providing us grant programming and whatever they can do to help support the schools in terms of education for students and parents. They are absolutely willing to do. One of the things that they brought in for us last year, which we saw a lot of success with, was in grade 9, an online module program for the students on prescription drug education. And we saw a lot of growth with that. It's a module that the students do online on the Chromebook. The students would identify at the beginning of the program, it's all confidential, but we're able to get the data without names. The students would identify the information that they knew and understood prior to going through the online programming, and then what they were able to learn through the course of the online program. We saw tremendous growth in the students and what they were able to understand based on, their knowledge of prescription drugs, which is really important. So we're going to continue with that, and we're also going to increase it and bring in a similar program in grade 8, which matches the 8th grade curriculum on stress and anxiety and coping strategies. So that's going to be a new online program that we're going to be able to do in the 8th grade health classes that the Alliance is going to support us with. We're also going to be bringing in LEAD program in 5th grade. So LEAD is Law Enforcement Against Drugs. It's kind of like the new revamped DARE program. So I've been working with the Community Policing Department as well as the elementary principals and Mrs. Tibbetts, and we are going to be bringing that in. That's going to be a 10-lesson series that we're bringing into the elementary schools at grade 5 to try to beef up the education that the kids are already getting at the elementary school before they get into middle school, which is where we see them experiment a little bit more. And in addition, the student assistance specialists at Churchill and the high school specifically are going to be coordinating with the health teachers. The student assistance specialists are going to be going into the health classes and talking to the students about self-disclosure. So students that self-disclose that they feel that they may have an issue with drugs or alcohol or anything else are not going to be penalized. So we want to make sure that the students really understand that this is our policy, and should they feel that they have an issue, they want help and they want to reach out, who they can go to and what steps to take, so that instead of it being a punitive process, we're able to help them and support them and their families through the process of getting help.
And then for the college and career readiness piece, we're going to continue working with Naviance. It is an incredible program, and we are able to utilize it starting in 6th grade. The program helps students go through their likes, what they're looking for. Do I want to be really far away from mommy and daddy? Do I want to be a plane right away? Do I want to be a car right away? Do I want to stay living at home? And gives them all the universities that meet their individual choices, needs. And we start building that up in 6th grade when they're doing just a personality test to see maybe what they should kind of look into. Or when I did it, it told me I should be a farmer, and I thought it was ridiculous, but then I really like gardening. So it's an interesting kind of way to look at the world. Right? You've never thought of that. It's an interesting way for the students to look at the world and for themselves and continue building self-awareness. That's a huge part of the counseling program, is that the child is able to identify not only social emotional pieces, but also what they would like to do as they move on, because it goes very quickly and they're making decisions really young as to what they'd like to do after they leave us. And that goes into the scope and sequence of planning for career readiness, not just for college, so that we're able to provide students with certain electives that would align with maybe a medical technician, or maybe a student that might be interested in going back to school for anything from engineering or auto body or fine and performing arts, things along those lines, that we're able to give them courses that would help guide them to make those choices. And also the AP MCC track. We have a career fair at Churchill, so if anybody would ever like to come, you're more than welcome to. It's an open invitation where we invite parents from the community, we invite teachers, significant others, we invite everybody that we can to come in, and they present to students that walk around and ask them questions about different careers. So we have lawyers, we have doctors, we have auto body, we have the police come, we had a tattoo artist last year, she was very popular. But it's just kind of a way for students to ask questions about the real world and what it looks like after they leave and what the job actually entails. And then senior seminar will be this year. So last year we had our big college fair, so we do that every year. Senior seminar we run every year, but our portion of senior seminar will be a college fair. So a little bit smaller, where we're not, we don't have as many colleges come, but it's still an opportunity for the seniors to kind of get a taste of it in the beginning of the year and speak to some universities. We have the military come in as well, and a couple different trade schools come to speak to the students where they can ask questions. There's lots of stuff going on. It's very exciting. Our instant decision day was, we ran our first one this year, which was wonderful. Dr. Vanello was scooping ice cream out for all the seniors. Next year we're going to get pre-scooped because that was intense and we all were covered in ice cream by the end. I think some of them came to a meeting
Yes,
with you
they did,
afterwards.
covered in ice cream.
Mhm. So we didn't think completely that through. I should have asked the elementary schools about the ice cream social because they all get it pre-scooped. We now know that. This year we'll get pre-scooped. But that was a great day where the students were able to come in. They wore their t-shirts from the universities that they were going to. We had a map on the wall and they put stickers where they were going, so they had a visual to see like how East Brunswick is spreading throughout the entire country. We had some kids put it on top for Canada and some kids go over to Europe. But it was a great day. Everybody really enjoyed it. We had a lot of visitors come and see the ice cream scooping. If any would like to come and scoop some ice cream, you're more than welcome to. But that's kind of everything in a nutshell, really quickly. We tried to keep it short. We could talk for a really long time. But so we'll open it up to questions.
Great report. Two of you have such passion for what you do. It's wonderful. I have to give a shout out, my annual shout out, Danielle.
Naviance.
Naviance.
This woman loves Naviance. She could work for them.
I am a Naviance addict.
Me too.
Groupie.
Well, when you've gone the other way,
I
then
did
you see
the
what
college
Naviance can do.
application process with one child without Naviance, and the college application process with the other child with Naviance. Naviance rocks. It's just a great program. I have a question. Actually, somebody asked me this earlier, and I think it's a really good question, and maybe we don't do a good enough job spreading awareness of this. When a child is receiving some kind of intervention or support or mentoring, whether they're in a student assistant run program or receiving more personal intervention, how does it follow them from building to building?
That is a good question.
I imagine the student assistant specialist guidance counselors talk, but is there a more formalized process?
Right, so the month of June, we devote our department meetings to transitioning meetings. And we keep an internal document because it is confidential. We don't want to violate any confidentiality laws, but we do make sure we have an in-person meeting. The student assistance specialists from elementary come up to this building. We bring in the Hammersholt staff. We meet. I'm there. We facilitate the conversation and look through the document and talk about what are the needs of the student from elementary to Hammersholt, which is our biggest transition. And then we do the same thing moving on from Hammersholt to Churchill, Churchill to the high school. One of the things we do find, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
one of the things we do find though is that children do change a lot over the summer.
Yeah.
As a parent of an incoming 7th grader, I can tell you that the child that left 6th grade is totally different than the child that's going into 7th grade. So we do our best to give the most accurate and up-to-date information, but as you know, children change, dynamics change from one building to the next, from 3 months ago to the next. So it's an ever-evolving system that we have to be on top of. But we do have formalized meetings. We do transition any INRS plans, 504 plans, things like that to the next school. But because kids are kids and they're constantly changing and evolving, it's, you know, we're constantly kind of running after them to keep on top of what is the next change.
And our student, Genesis, our system, also allows us, there's a notes tab that we don't put a lot of information in, but we have like our coding that we put in there that stays with the child from the time that they start in East Brunswick all the way up. So we utilize that as well.
I just wanted to say thank you again for that thorough report, and our Student Services Committee, we're lucky to hear a lot of the great stuff that you're doing, and especially the mindfulness programming. That's so exciting that we're further developing that, and the stress and anxiety and coping strategies at 8th grade is Super good. I mean, that's definitely the time where there's some, stretching being done, and that's addressing that. So thank you for all that you do.
And to that end, also at Hammersholt, one of the things I wanted to mention is Mr. Yanazzo and I did work over the summer with both the phys ed teachers and the student assistance specialists and the health teachers. We're going to be having Mindfulness Mondays starting in September at Hammersholt. So every Monday, there's going to be an extended 10 minutes. We've been working on planning for the entire school year, but each Monday, the students will be participating in either a breathing exercise, a physical exercise, a mindfulness exercise. So we're trying to really incorporate it into the whole school community, K to 12.
And it's not just like a quick, this is what it is, and walk away, that we're continuing to grow the skills so that they can utilize them on their own.
Thank you. Makes a big difference.
Okay, I have a forward-looking question for you. So the state of New Jersey has been talking about legalization of marijuana. What's your opinion about if we do legalize marijuana, what kind of impact will this to our students? And what kind of impact to your job? And if the impact is negative, are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Well, that's a very big question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very big, forward-looking, so you can.
It's a big question. So there's a lot of components to that, and we've been hearing a lot, the health teachers and nurses and student assistance specialists also have been hearing a lot about that from the students that they meet with to counsel who have been caught vaping, who say, well, everybody's saying it's going to be legal, so
Right.
what's the problem?
It's minimizing what the drug is, so it's making it not as big of a deal.
But we have to go back to the fact that it's still an illegal substance. So we have to go back to relating it to alcohol. Just because alcohol is legal in the state of New Jersey over the age of 21 does not mean that you can be under the influence in school under the age of 21. This is still not appropriate. So it's a lot of education and conversations. And I had the opportunity, we spoke earlier about the men's groups that we started to run in the buildings, and I had the opportunity to observe 2 of those. And this was a topic that came up in the men's group at the high school. And it was a lot of education around that, and the fact that just because it's legalized in the state of New Jersey does not mean that it's appropriate for you under the age of 18, does not mean that it's appropriate for you to come to school under the influence, and then reverting back to coping strategies. If you feel that you need to be self-medicating, then we need to talk about what your stressors are and what your coping strategies are. So it's a lot of education around that topic, but it definitely does send a mixed message to our students when we hear a lot about it becoming legalized. That's confusing to the students. So it's a lot of education.
If I may, just add to that, because you're absolutely correct. A lot of the focus, if that were to happen, and we've talked about this briefly in our meetings, in our department meetings, would now have to focus more towards the parent. Because the parent would have to know that even though whatever's legalized for whatever age groups, the parent is going to have to be even more a part of our community when it comes to making sure that they help us monitor what the students are doing. One of the things that have come up, if that were to pass at some point, is our student drivers. Would they, partake if they're 18 years old in the evening or whatever age, or if they're doing this on the outside and then they're getting behind the wheel? So it's all about education, and it's about partnering up with our parent groups and our parents to really help us monitor what's happening. It would be a major change in how we address the situation of drugs, and potentially drugs and alcohol, depending on how you look at it. So it's a fantastic question, and it's one that we hope we don't have to deal with, hopefully ever, but in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for
ladies.
having us.
Looking forward to a great year. Okay. For the good of the cause, for the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment. To allow for a fair and orderly public comment period, individual comments are limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public are reminded this is a public televised meeting of the Board of Ed, and to protect the privacy of all students and staff. Concerns regarding individual students and staff members should generally be addressed by first meeting with the appropriate administrative staff. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to address the board? Yes. Name, rank,
Trudy
and
Atkins,
serial
Director of
number.
Academic Support and Community Outreach. This is a community outreach. Please, parents, go on and fill out your student information forms on Parent Access so we can be sure we have your students safe at school. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Do you get her name and everything? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Seeing none, I close the public portion and we move on to tonight's agenda. For the community program items, can I please have a motion for items 1, 2, and 3?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax.
Second.
He said it first.
Second by Mr. Leroux. All those in, any discussion?
I just wanted to mention, it's a pretty impressive array of programs, the variety from cooking to tennis to engineering. I mean, it has grown leaps and bounds, and thank you for that offering.
Yeah, all based on student interest, so this is really great. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving on to curriculum instruction, can I please have a motion for items 1 and 2?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax, second by Mr. Winston. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Financial services items, can I please, I'm sorry?
You skip facilities.
Facilities.
I skipped facilities. Am I operating with an old agenda? I don't have the same agenda everyone has. Unfair to Local 12. Okay. Let me do your agenda. All right, we got facilities, just one item. Can I please have a motion for the one item on the facilities agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sismar. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Now I see the facilities item, okay. Financial services, can I please have a motion for items 1 through 7?
So moved, sorry.
Moved by Mrs. Lax.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sismar. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, Mark.
Again, I know we always point it out, but it is notable. Lawrence Brook Elementary PTA rating 2750 for the schools. You know, this is something that doesn't happen overnight. The parents and teacher associations work very hard for these things, and you know, it's fantastic. So.
Thank you.
I wanted to actually ask a question about that one. Because it says that they're donating agendas and folders for all incoming students. I thought all the elementaries did that. Is this something new? Was that school not doing it before? Or is it just a certain?
I'm not sure if this was to offset the cost of what we were doing, I believe. Seconds.
Or is that a specific school by
If
school
we
for the
don't know
PTAs?
exactly,
Right, I believe the schools typically do fund certain aspects of kind of welcome gifts.
Yes.
This one was donated to Lawrence Brook through the PTA, and I'm not quite sure of how it differs from the others,
Okay.
but each school does have some
Some,
way to welcome students into the school.
Gotcha. No, this is a nice way. The agendas are nice. Okay. Thank you.
Would you mind if we can
I'll
find out
clarify
about
that.
that we'll put it in the next superintendent's
Yes, sir.
report to the board? Thank you.
any other discussion? This is a roll call vote. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Sismore.
Yes.
Mr. Hong.
Yes.
Mrs. Lax.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Seeler.
Yes.
Mr. Winston.
Yes.
President Becker.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, moving on to human resources. Can I please have a motion for items 1 through 3?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax.
Second.
Second by Mr. Seeler. Is there any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Sismore.
Yes.
Mr. Hong.
Yes.
Mrs. Lax.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Seeler,
Yes.
Mr. Winston,
Yes.
President Baker.
Yes, motion carries. Staff development, there's one item.
There's an addendum, number 4. HR
Okay,
number
I'm
4.
sorry, that isn't on this agenda either. I have two agendas that are not the correct one. I apologize. Can I have an agenda?
Take mine.
That's correct, thank you.
Are you here?
No, that's fine.
Oh.
I
So then
just,
it's all-
I don't know why I don't have it. It's a mystery agenda.
I don't see the
It's not
addendum
there either.
on this document.
Okay. Oh, I believe you. I just don't know why it's not on the other agenda. Okay, we have a personnel action addendum. Can I please have a motion for this? Moved by Mrs. Lax.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sismar. Is there any discussion? Do we need to see this addendum? To vote on it?
I think it's this one.
It's on
Okay,
there. It's on
all
there.
right, okay, okay, all right, as long as everybody's seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The changes are red line.
Okay. And it's a roll call vote. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Sismore.
Yes.
Mr. Hung.
Yes.
Mrs. Lax.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Seeler.
Yes.
Mr. Winston,
Yes.
President Baker.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, Joe, what item are we supposed to be up to now?
Staff development, number 1.
Staff development, just one item?
There are 6 items, 1 to 6.
You have 2, 1. Oh, no, that's.
That's student services.
Yeah.
Staff development is just one item.
You're correct.
Okay, all right. We're going to get this right by the end of the meeting. Okay, staff development, we have one item. Can I please have a motion for that? Moved by Mrs. Lax, second by Mr. Winston. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Jeff, question? We're just saying you're in
Said all those in
favor.
favor.
I love your enthusiasm, man,
Doing
go.
as told, I listened.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Student services, can I please have a motion for items 1 through 6? Moved by Mrs. Lax.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sismar. Is there any discussion?
Yes, on item number 3, All-Star Athletic Center. I know last year I pushed to have the school budget pay for this process because the parents were paying to go to All-Star Athletic for the cheerleaders. We need to look into having the mats at our school, at one of our schools, or somewhere to store them. I think the problem is storing mats or having mats. We have 11 schools in the district. We can have mats somewhere for these cheerleaders to go to.
So,
So when Miss Sultana's daughter's up there in high school, she'll be able to cheer there.
Chad, but we are paying for, we used to, for the off-site practices.
It's like swimming, we pay for in bowling.
Right, we
yes.
are paying for
We are.
that.
We are paying for it.
So what is it that we are being, that?
So, if I may, because I think I have some of the answer to that. Part of the concern there is that it's not the spring floor that they use for competitions. We don't have one. We don't have a part of the district that has that. So we have to pay for that type of floor. So the issue then would be, do we have space to put in the spring flooring? And then can that be utilized for anything else?
Or can we store it somewhere?
Right. So we'd have to either pull it up and store it.
We will
which
look
is-
into that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if this is an issue from last year, perhaps we could get a resolution or a recommendation to tie up this loose end.
Because over long term, it's be more beneficial and price effective for us to own our own mats.
Sure, to buy something, you know,
Right.
and instead of paying money to rent or.
And busing kids there.
And busing, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chad, for bringing that up. Are we taking that off the agenda?
No, we're approving
No,
this.
we-
No, we approved
I'm
that.
recommending proceed with this, but we
Okay.
will investigate.
Okay.
Mr. Seeler's
I just wanted to find
concern.
out.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, this is a roll call vote. The secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Sismore.
Yes.
Mr. Hung.
Yes.
Mrs. Lax.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Seeler.
Yes.
Mr. Winston. President Baker.
Yes, motion carries. Can I have, that was out of district placement was on here, then. We did that already. We did student services.
Okay, so.
Okay, that's okay. All right,
Transportation.
we're up to transportation services. Items 1 through 2, can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax, second by Mr. Sismar. Is there any discussion?
I just wanted to ask about
Of course.
another bid rejection for the transportation services.
All right, so we received 2 bids. The one bid, the bid bond was not acceptable. It didn't meet the terms of the requirements per the state. And the other one was, the other bid received was like over 3 times the budgeted amount. So we will go out to quotes to ensure that we have routes, and then in the near future bid them.
It doesn't affect the routes now, then?
We'll have coverage
You will have coverage.
for those routes that were being rejected.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving on to committee reports, information items, and the good of the cause. I'd like to start by just reiterating something about the EPSTAR committee that Dr. Bolesky referred to earlier, the East Brunswick Schools for Total Acceptance and Respect. Tonight was what we call the core or steering committee. It brought in representatives from the entire township. However, this committee is not going to meet a lot. The real work is going to be done in the 3 subcommittees. There's one simply called students, anything related to the students. One, parents, anything related to the parents. And then we're going to have a 3rd committee that will concentrate on communication and rapid response. In perfecting and refining our way of getting out information on global district issues that parents and/or students and/or staff need to get real-time, correct information. I would like to ask the board members to please let me know by next Wednesday if you can. That's when I invite you all to participate on any of these subcommittees. You want to be on all 3, you can be on all 3. You want to be on 1, 2. If you feel you just don't have time to be on any, that's fine. You guys are already spending more time than, you're spending a lot of time. So, whatever you want to do, if you could please let me know by Wednesday. We're going to try and get the committees together by then. The only thing that might happen is, as you know, we can't have more than 4 board members on any given committee. So if I end up getting more than 4 requests for an individual committee, I'll call and we can figure it out. We could rotate, or maybe you'll serve on something else. But at this point, it's really all going to happen in the subcommittees. Again, the committee that met tonight will meet maybe 1 or 2 other times this year. So by Wednesday, just send me an email. You just say parents, students, or communication, or none. And if you don't want, if you could just let me know that too, so I'm not waiting for an email that never comes. Thank you. Anybody else? We do have a need for a closed session, whereas the Board of Education must discuss matters which are not appropriate for discussion in a public meeting. We intend to discuss matters as follows. Those items in tonight's agenda. Whereas the length of the closed session is estimated to be fill in the blank.
I
Okay,
would say about,
30 minutes?
yes, 30 minutes.
Okay. 30 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and action may be taken. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax.
Second.
By Mr. Sismar. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Good night. Thank you.